Page 242 of The Unfolding is the story of Ryan Stevenson.
I trusted the Lord with everything in me, but I felt like two people half the time because I would just be on my face just saying, God, I trust you. And then sometimes within the next breath, I'm just infuriated with him. But where are you?
God's story has been unfolding.
Since the beginning of time.
He invites you to be a part of it.
Another page in The Unfolding.
Hi, this is Meredith Foster. Ryan Stevenson is a Dove Award-winning artist known for powerful songs like Eye of the Storm, The Gospel, No Matter What. But behind the music is a man whose story speaks to something that we all wrestle with, identity. For much of Ryan's early life, circumstances told him a story, that he was poor, overlooked, forgotten, that the dreams in his heart were too big and too far out of reach. But there was another voice, quieter, but constant, the voice of God, reminding him that he was beloved and chosen and created on purpose for a purpose. In this conversation, Ryan talks about what it means to hold on to God's truth in the face of years of rejection and delay, and how even in the back of an ambulance as a paramedic, God was quietly orchestrating a breakthrough into a career that was his calling. It's a story about not letting your surroundings define your identity and daring to believe that the dreams God placed in your heart are there for a reason.
From my earliest memories, I was born into a Christian home, a faith-filled home in a small little farming community, and grew up in the church. And so both of my parents, from my earliest memories, just really instilled just an environment of knowing God and trusting God and peace and faith, belief. So I don't ever really remember not being aware of the notion of God or our faith or spirituality. It was just always present. That was life in our home.
There's almost always some kind of challenges we face as we're growing up. What were some of the big ones for you?
Yeah, great question. For me, that's an easy one. For one reason or the other, for me, one of the things that I was most aware of even as a young kid was I was aware that we were poor. And we grew up in an agricultural area in the southern part of Oregon. I was born and raised in that town and grew up there my entire life. A town called Bonanza, Oregon. It was all farmers, ranchers, wheat, sugar beets, grain, and Holstein dairy farms. And so it was either, in our area, you were a corporation owner, you were a landowner, you were a business owner, or you were one of the people that worked for those people. And we were on the other side of the tracks. My father, blue collar guy, super hard worker, but he just worked every day, all day long for a local farmer. And when I went to school, I found that most of my closest friends from kindergarten, I went from kindergarten through 12th grade with basically the exact same 55 kids.
Wow.
We knew each other intimately, and I knew all of my buddies, like their parents they had all the cool stuff. They had the name brands. I was just aware that they had money. My best friend, his parents owned a big dairy farm that I spent most of my life at, being raised by that Dutch family out there on their dairy. I was just so aware. I would go there, I would spend time with them, and then I would be at home in our 940 square foot trailer house. And it was tight, and we never went without, but we didn't have much. I just remember feeling tension all the time. I felt the heaviness of my dad. I felt distress of my mom. I was just very aware. So as a young kid, I think the biggest thing that I had to navigate that kind of brought a good amount of pressure and shame and embarrassment and just wanting to be invisible as much as possible and my parents never put that on me, but I just knew it to be true. As I would see my parents do things like having private conversations, needing to borrow money or having food stamps, or it was just contrasting that to the people I was spending my time with. I'm like, man, these people are rich. What's wrong with me? I'm deficient. I don't belong. It was a huge obstacle.
It's interesting how there's one thing to be in circumstances. It's another thing when it becomes a part of our identity. So it's not just we don't have much money. It is I am poor or I am less than. I don't know if that's how you experienced it.
For sure. Oh yeah, easy. It's like you take on that identity of feeling like we can't afford that. And those people are all connected. They're in that circle and I'm outside of it. When those things like that get imprinted on you as a young kid, that stuff is like old luggage that you just can't get rid of. It's just going to stay around.
It's almost like it's woven into your DNA.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it.
You don't even realize it.
Till you encounter God, usually in some
Right.
powerful way. So what about faith for you? You went to church from the time you can remember. Was it a personal thing for you or was it more of a family thing?
Yeah. I remember I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 7 years old. I'll never forget that day. I was just very aware that I wanted to be a Christian and I wanted to have the faith that my parents had. I wanted a relationship with God, but even outside of just reciting a prayer or saying something that my mom helped me say, I just had this spiritual sensitivity even as a young kid, and I don't know why. I always knew that I wanted my life to be about the things of God. I had this tender place in my heart for the things of the Lord, and I didn't know why that was. I was the emotional kid. I was the creative kid. I was burdened for other people. I felt other people's pain.
Did you consider those things positive or negative?
No,
Yeah.
I always used to ask my mom, I would just be so upset, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I get so sad or emotional or tormented on the inside when I see somebody with special needs, when I see somebody on the street who's homeless? Why do I hurt for them? And she would just well up and she said, Ryan, those are such a blessing. That is not a curse. That is such a blessing that God has given you the heart that feels and relates to people who are hurting.
Man, thank God for her perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know me, my mom's been gone for a long time, but if you know me, you know a little bit of her. Like I have just her passion, her heart, just her zeal for life. Really just like I get my energy from people. My mom was such a nurturer. She was the one that everybody came to. Our door was always open. She would take in every single stray. She did not know a stranger. And I loved that about her. And I'm so thankful that that piece of her just got instilled in me.
Thank God for the nurturing to balance all of the negative stuff, the false identity
For
stuff
sure.
that you were carrying.
Yep.
Did you have an idea about what you thought you wanted to do or be?
Yeah. Again, even as a young kid, I remember I was just such a dreamer. And I could almost like visualize everything because to me, that was just such an escape from my reality. I got turned on to music as a young kid. My sister snuck home one time a Michael Jackson Thriller cassette tape. Oh my goodness. And I'd never heard anything like that before. And like this rhythmic music just made my heart come alive. I'm not saying like Michael Jackson's lyrics made my heart come alive, but it was this sound and this feeling. We were growing up in church singing hymnals. That was it. A piano and hymns. But that's how I really learned about the love of Jesus was through the hymns. I grew up on that in our small little country church. But for me, just having music enter my life, 2nd or 3rd grade, I started playing the drums because I just loved that beat and that groove. And then shortly thereafter, starting to hear some Christian music. We grew up in a town of 250 people out in the country. Like I didn't know that Christian music was even a thing. I just didn't even know it existed. And so I was hearing groups like the Imperials and a girl named Amy Grant. And those were my parents' 2 favorite artists at the time. In our little old car that barely ran, there was 2 cassette tapes that never left that thing. It was Amy Grant and Russ Taff, the Imperials. And so those 2 artists became like the soundtrack to my younger life. Wow. And that was that really birthed in me a dreaming kind of desire because I loved how it made me feel. So even at a young age, I was like, man, if music can do that, man, I want to do that. And so.
Did you ever say that out loud?
Oh yeah. It's all that I would stand in front of my mirror and I would just listen to the Imperials or I would listen to Petra.
Did you tell other people that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I would just say it to myself, and I would just stand in front of my mirror and I would sing along to Petra. I would sing along to the Imperials, or I would sing Amy Grant songs and just see myself somewhere down the road
Wow.
singing songs like that. Yeah, so I went through kindergarten through 12th grade, same school, same group of kids,
Okay.
go to college. But high school was, honestly, I should talk about that for a sec because my high school years were just profoundly brutal.
Really?
Oh my goodness. So up until the 6th grade, I felt like somewhat normal. I felt like I kind of fit in a physical sense. And then 6th grade, we go back into 7th grade. I can almost boil every single thing in my life where I begin to unravel and my thoughts and emotions went haywire. It was when we came back to start junior high. In the 7th grade, all of my friends, I came back after that summer, all of my friends had started growing and going through puberty and changing and becoming maturing young men. And I didn't, nor did I in 8th grade or 9th, 10th, 11th. So I didn't go through puberty. I didn't get my growth spurt until college.
Wow.
And yeah, I felt like I went through my entire high school career in the body physically as a 6th grade boy.
Wow.
And it was really hard.
Did you get picked on because you're the little guy? That's the way I remember high school.
Oh, yeah. It was absolute torment and being the brunt of everybody's jokes. You haven't lived until you've been pantsed in the gym as a junior in high school, but you're still like the body of a little boy and everybody's laughing and you're getting bullied and getting your head slammed against a wall and your glasses break and your haircut is weird. And so that was high school to me.
Yeah.
That was it.
And all of that probably just added to that I am poor, I don't fit in.
100%. It just
Amplified.
reaffirmed everything that I just believed about myself anyways.
Wow.
And I felt like I was almost, in a sense, trying to find ways to disassociate from that. And to me, that was dreaming and thinking of myself as someday being a popular musician or being somebody that would just show them, look, I am something special.
Wow.
My youth pastor showed up. I just had graduated high school. My youth leader shows up in my driveway, hands me an acoustic guitar that he had just bought. And I didn't play guitar. I'm a drummer. Like I started playing the drums in the 3rd grade at school. So I just wanted to play drums. That's what I thought I was going to do. He gives me this guitar. He's like, Ryan, I felt like the Lord told me to give this to you. Here you go. And it didn't make any sense to me at all. I didn't play. I didn't sing. I didn't do any of that. I was actually kind of annoyed. Like if anybody knew that I wanted to be a drummer, it was him. But he gave me a guitar instead. I didn't touch it, put it away. And that fall, I went to Northwest Christian College in Eugene, Oregon. Took my guitar with me, of course, moved into the dorms. And my next door neighbor across the hallway was walking by my room one day. He said, "Is that your guitar?" I was like, "Yeah." "You play?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I've never played. I don't know how." And he's like, "Hang on." So he goes into his room, gets his guitar, sits on the bed across from me. And he just starts showing me, this is a G, this is a C, this is a D. And he just taught me a couple chords. And it was like that moment I could just do it. I don't know why. It just made sense. It just clicked.
Wow.
And so playing the guitar then opened up. It's like, oh, now because of this music and this sound and this rhythm that I already have, I started writing songs and just expressing my heart because it just felt so good. I used the guitar and music as a way to help me. It just felt like therapy.
Like
And
journaling.
yes, it's like I loved to write. I loved to bring stories to life. That was like almost like my escape of just helping myself feel better. It's like, well, if I can bring this story to life and get it out of me, then at least it's not in there anymore tormenting me. And so that's why I started writing songs.
It's like therapy helps us process things. It's exactly what it is. You're processing those things as you write it. It's wonderful. Did you ever play those songs for anybody else?
Not really. No, I was just between homework and class, any spare second that I had, I was just writing little songs and just learning. All I could do was just want to play the guitar and get better. And my heart just kept coming more alive and more alive. And my neighbor and I across the hall, he was a rapper and he played acoustic guitar, and I was learning to sing a little bit. So he would rap and I would sing, and we started this little duo, this little pop rap singing duo group. And we did that all through college. And then I really started to share, like we would just write songs together every day, all day long. We did that for years, all through college until we graduated. And so, yeah, that kind of leads my college experience a little bit.
Did that change what you thought you wanted to do with your life? Did you go to college thinking, I am going to be a musician?
No, my ultimate goal was, man, someday I want to try to be like an emergency room physician. I loved the medical field.
Wow.
I loved emergency medicine. I had done like some ride-alongs here and there with our little volunteer ambulance service, which gets like one call every 6 months.
For the town of 250.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
It wasn't that busy. But I just loved it. Long story short, I ended up not going through medical school. I ended up going through the education program. I got my bachelor's degree in education and taught school for a couple years out of college, all the while.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I wasn't proud of it, man. That was.
Did it feel like you were, what's the word I want to use? It was like you were settling for second best in some way?
100%. I just wanted to get out of college in 4 years. And I knew at that point in time that I was so far behind in any kind of biology degree that I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go and just get my degree and get out of here. I don't care what it is at this point. I went through the education program instead. The whole time knowing that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I did it, got my degree, taught school for a couple years, hated it the entire time. It was so hard and brutal. And man, I was just not a good teacher. Thankfully, the Lord allowed me to get out of that after my second year. And I went back. At that point in time, my wife and I went back. We moved over closer to where her family is. And I knew I wasn't going to teach anymore. Music felt like it was just not going to happen. So I was in a band. My college roommate and we had formed that band, and we got pretty successful in the Pacific Northwest. And then my lead singer buddy got a record deal. And so that was a time where he needed to move out on his own and go in a different direction. And so I started teaching, and then...
Did you kind of let go of that musician?
Yeah, I didn't let go of it. It was a bitter pill to swallow there for a while. It was hard. And in hindsight, we were young and didn't really know what we were doing. But after that, I went back to school. And when my wife and I had moved over to Boise, Idaho, and we lived closer to her family, I went back to school and got my paramedic license in the state of Idaho. It was the closest thing that I could do to be an emergency room doc and not have to go to medical school. I went all the way through and got my license in the state of Idaho as a 911 paramedic, full on. And I did that for 8 years. But when I graduated from paramedic school, it was like all of a sudden I had this new kind of fire, this vigor, if you will, of I wanted to pick my guitar up again. And so my job as a paramedic really allowed me to do that because I only worked 2 days a week.
Wow.
I worked 2 24-hour shifts, and then I had 5 days off every week.
Oh.
So on my days off, I was just going into coffee shops and sharing my songs and playing little open mic nights here and there. And that was really kind of the rebirth of me just picking up something that I thought was just absolutely lost and broken, was never going to happen. I had just lost my chance. The band that I was in, they just got a record deal and I'm not a part of it. My dreams are shattered. It is over. And here I am. I can't even teach school. I don't have no direction. Nothing works out. Just blah, 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 blah. And now I'm a paramedic.
And all of that disappointment and things are not working out feeds into that identity of I'm poor, I don't measure up.
Yeah.
Whether you probably didn't recognize it at the time, I'm guessing, but feeds into that idea that things are not going to work out.
For sure. I feel like when things start going bad and when your life starts not adding up and looking like the way you thought it was going to look like by a certain time, like why am I not here by now? I feel like my propensity is to see myself as deficient
Yeah.
too. Then I guess I messed it up. I guess I did something wrong, because that just felt like my whole history anyway. So it was easy to agree with
Yeah.
that.
Confirm, confirm, confirm.
Yep.
So what was your relationship with God like in this stage of your life?
Man, just again, tender. I trusted the Lord with everything in me, but I felt like two people half the time, because I would just be on my face just saying, God, I trust you. And then sometimes within the next breath, I'm just infuriated with him. But where are you? I thought I heard from you. I thought you were with me. I thought you were walking with me through this. I cast all my cares on you. I am trusting you with all my heart. I am not leaning on my own understanding. I'm acknowledging you in all of my ways, and I'm asking you to direct my path. And I can't see you, and I can't hear you, and everybody else has moved on without me, before me. I've missed out on so many opportunities, and here I am after all this time in the same space. Everybody's doing the things that I dreamed about, and I've been totally overlooked and forgotten. And I've always been the overlooked. I've been overlooked my whole life. I've been the outcast. I've been stepped on. It's like that narrative is just at the forefront of my mind every day. Yet there's this still small voice in me that I can't explain. I can't describe here today if I tried, but I just knew in my heart of hearts, there was this voice that said, but I have you. You're my son, and I've got you. So just trust me. And that's, man, I know that just sounds so cliche, but that is the thread that kept me hanging on and just holding on to some semblance of hope, even in the just gut-wrenching seasons of doubt and despair and feeling like I've blown it. I missed it.
It felt like life had passed him by, like the dreams planted deep in his heart were slipping out of reach. But even in the silence and disappointment, there was still that quiet voice prompting Ryan to hold on to Jesus, to hold on to the dreams that would not let go of him.
Somewhere back, I don't know where this was in your maybe teenage years, but when you went to Jesus Northwest and you saw DC talk on the stage, and you had an experience where you felt like it almost, I remember reading about this in your book, it was almost like an identity experience, like something came alive in you.
100%. Yeah. I was in the 8th grade. Our youth leader took us to a Christian music festival called Jesus Northwest. And I went up there. We were there for the whole weekend. I was watching all these bands play all weekend long. But the last night of that festival, the headliner band that was going to close the whole thing down was this group that I had vaguely heard of. I didn't really know any of their music, but I did know a couple of their songs. There was this group called DC Talk. And so for some odd reason, I was able to make my way in this horde of 40,000 people at night. I somehow found my way to the front of the main stage up against this big black metal fence. And I just hung on for dear life. And during that concert, I had this, and I don't want to make everybody nervous and say that I had an out-of-body experience, but it was a moment where it was like the music just stopped. It's the only way I can describe it. It was like the music just went, it stopped, and I saw the lead singer guy. He was like, he came across the stage, and he just looked at me, and he handed me a microphone, and he says, it's your turn. And it was just like, and then I was just back. I was back at that concert, and he was like over on the other side of the stage. And that just went on, but it was like that moment. I remember driving home in our old crusty church van on the way home from that concert the next day, just knowing, like having this peace that passed all of my understanding, just knowing, okay, I think I'm going to be connected with that guy someday down the road. I just know that to be true. And I don't know why, I don't know how, but I feel like my story is going to somehow be woven into his. So that was a real defining moment where I really had a ironclad piece of a dream that felt so real that I could hold on to it and just rest a little bit.
I think it's important for people to hear this, because I'm sure that by the time you fast forward to your mid to late 20s as an EMT, that dream has been battered. And I don't know if you've put it away completely, but there's probably a large part of you that has dismissed that.
100%. Yep. What felt so alive in that moment of having this vision, having this dream, just knowing in my heart, this is where I'm being dropped and kicked around and overlooked, and now I'm just a paramedic. It felt like just a distant memory again, except for that little glimmer of that still small voice that just said, I showed you, I told you, and I'm faithful. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like to a large degree, that is why I just felt the desire to pick up my guitar and play at open mic nights, even while I was working as a paramedic all those years.
And the beautiful thing is, even things that are dead to us does not mean they're actually dead.
Again, I get asked a lot, like, how did you get out from being a paramedic into Christian music? It's pretty bizarre. It happened because of my paramedic job. I was at work one day, responded to a 911 call where a 39-year-old female had been out hiking with her mom and her 2 kids. She got struck by lightning up in the foothills, just north of town a little bit. I was the paramedic that responded to that call, and she was in full cardiac arrest when we got there. So I just told my team, I said, hey, I knew she wasn't going to make it. She was burned real bad. She'd been down for 10 minutes, which is a long time, when you're trying to do imminent CPR and life-saving measures. 10 minutes is a long time to be down, just for oxygen's sake. I won't get into the physiology of all that, but we were a ways away. We got her. I said, hey, I told my team, just move her to the ambulance and I'll work on her. I'll do CPR en route to the hospital. We get her into the ambulance. I intubate her. I put a tube into her lungs. I put some IVs in her arms. I get the patches on her chest like we're doing full-on CPR, and I get her back. So I ended up reviving her in the back of the ambulance. She's on a ventilator for a period of time. I don't know how long after that. Then she's in a rehab facility for a while. She's got some neurologic problems from her lightning strike. But long story short, months later, she and I connect through a banquet that the county put on, showcasing the most, they call it community impact, like the most noteworthy calls where this paramedic showed up and really made a difference. So we meet, she finds out that I'm a local musician. I start sharing with her that I play coffee shops around town. I feel like it's important to say this. She and I we're spiritually on opposite sides of the planet. Like she would tell me, if she were right here right now, she's like, she wasn't into the Christian thing, didn't really, it just wasn't her thing. So we didn't really share the same faith, but she would just always say, there's just something different about you. I don't know what it is, but I see it. She told me one day, Ryan, if there's ever a way that I can help you and be there for you, I want to do that. And I didn't know what that looked like. But several months later, this is where it gets crazy. This guy asks me, he's doing a festival at the Idaho State Fair. It's called the Battle of the Bends. It is very cool. And he calls me up panicking and he says, Ryan, I have 9 bands and I need 10. And if I don't have 10, they're not going to let me do the event. Will you help me? I was like, and I just knew it. Like I knew what I was getting into. It was like a bunch of kids. It's like kid bands and their parents are taking them there.
And you are now
And I'm like,
30?
I'm 27, 28, 29 years, somewhere in there. I'm in my late 20s, almost 30 years old. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. But I felt so bad for the guy. It's like, sure. His name was Ron. I'm like, yeah, Ron, I'll come help you. So we did it and we won. Like the grand prize. Clearly we won. We were playing against like 5th graders. So we ended up winning this Battle of the
Then
Bands.
you gloated.
Can you believe it? Yeah. We played really well. We ended up winning. The prize was $1,000 towards a recording at this really cool studio. And I've been wanting to record at that studio forever, and I just never could. Never had any money or extra money to go throw down on recording. So I got $1,000 to go into that studio and record. And I talked to the producer and he's like, look, I'll record a record for you for $1,000 a song. And you have $1,000. So if you want to do 5 songs, and I wanted to do 5 songs. I'd had always wanted to record a 5-song demo. So I'd have something to kind of share with people. And I remember the lady who got struck by lightning, she says, if you need help, if you need anything, I want you to come to me. I want to be there for you.
Wow.
And so I couldn't believe I was asking her. I pulled up into my driveway one day and I hit her up. I called her and she's like, hey, there's my favorite paramedic. And I was like, hey, I can't believe I'm about to ask you this. I wanted to share something with you though. I said, hey, I know you said you wanted to help me. I have this opportunity. I won this thing. They're going to let me record a little demo record and they gave me enough. They gave me some money to do one song, but I want to do 5. If you want to help me, here's a way you can help me. I need some money. And she's, how much do you need? I was like, I need like $4,000. She's like, huh, interesting. Well, man, this is really weird, Ryan. A couple days ago, out of the blue, this retroactive disability check from Blue Cross from our insurance showed up. I have no idea why, but it's from my lightning strike. It's like we overpaid or our insurance. It was just like a kickback of money that was overpaid. So they sent it back to us and retroactively from all the way back then. I don't know why they sent it to us. That's never happened before, but it's for $4,000. She's like, I know what that check, I know what that's for. So she's like, you can have it. And she gave me that money. And I went into that studio and recorded 5 songs. And I shared those songs with some people that landed me a record deal.
As that unfolded, that one thing after another just starts to happen. What started to happen in you and in terms of those voices of I'm not enough or it doesn't happen for me or that kind of stuff?
And there was like a little reprieve from it at that point because I'm like, wow, I just got signed to a major record company. Here, I've made it. I've arrived. It's really happening. And I was off to the races. I quit my job. My first single went out to Christian radio, went to number 13.
What year was this?
2010.
Number 13.
Yeah. And so after that song went out, I was only 8 months into that contract. I just released a song that went number 13 and that label dropped me. And so we've just had our first child.
Wow.
My wife has just quit her job at the bank. I've just quit my job as a paramedic because I'm this successful Christian artist now and I'm get these touring opportunities. I'm on the radio and that thing just derails. And you talk about, that was truly probably the most pivotal, excruciating train derailment, go to blows with God moment. Because right then and there, we had no money. I just quit my job. My mom had just died. My wife and I had just gone through a miscarriage of our twins. Like everything just had compounded it. I was like, my life is going so well. I'm living my dream to within weeks to everything derailing. It was just so confusing. I'm like, God, you're torturous. You are not good. You do not care about me. I don't know a thing about you.
That thing that had been in you, that seed of belief and dream and all that kind of stuff. You're at a crossroads there where you have to decide what you believe is true about God and what you believe about yourself, because all of those terrible circumstances could put you back in a place of believing, oh yeah, that's right, I'm the one who never rises up.
And it did. And I can't remember any other time in my life where I felt like the devil showed up in full force and just had his finger in my face, being dropped, being overlooked. Something didn't work out. You almost made it. You were almost good enough. My mom was the person in my life that I knew loved me without any conditions. And she was gone. I watched her die a horrible death of bone cancer. And so I truly felt like an orphan where I didn't have that. And I'm the baby of our family. I'm the only son. My mom and I were super tight. And it was just like all this stuff. It felt like a nuclear bomb where that's it. Just life is over. Life is derailed. And again, not to sound cliche, even at the bedrock of that hurt, fear, confusion, devastation, that pit where it's like, it's over. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way or has felt that, but like that bottom where it's like, there's nothing else. We're not going to move on. I'm not going to recover from this. That little, still, small voice just was like, but I've got you. But I have you. And I'll never forget this one lady. I went to a church service one night. This little old lady that I did not know. And I'm just like, I'm sitting in church just sobbing. And it was like an evening service and I'm just a wreck. Nobody knows that my life is just in shambles. My wife and I are struggling. We have no money. We're living off of her 401k. I'm cold calling churches to maybe somebody will let me come play because I'm too ashamed to let everybody know that I just got dropped from my record deal. Bad situation. This little old lady comes up to me and she's like, Ryan, I wanted you to know that God, she didn't know me. She didn't know me at all. She's like, I felt like I needed to tell you that God is taking you away from the things and the people that you're not supposed to be aligned with. And he is right now in the process of aligning you with who you're supposed to be with for this next chapter of your life.
Wow.
I'm like, huh. And I just felt like this peace that didn't even make any sense, but like that word just shot through my spirit like the warmest fire. And it's just little moments like that, just these little kisses of grace, these little tidbits from the Lord that's like, I'm confirming my word to you and my promises to you through others. And that was like this sporadic thing. Right after that lady gave me that word, I was in Tennessee, and I was doing some songwriting, and I had just written this song called Speak Life. I was going to put it out on my own because I'm just like, this producer guy that I was working with, he's like, man, I really believe in you. I know things have been pretty hard, and I know you've had a rough go, but I believe in you. I'll write with you as much as you want to. So we started writing all these songs, and he was sharing all my songs all around town with every record label, and every record label said, no. Finally, so one label took a meeting with me, and they're like, Ryan, look, I'm just going to shoot straight with you, bud. It's not your music. I'm listening to all these songs. These feel like hits. These feel like radio hits. It's not your music. It's you. It's like, it's your age. It's your look. It's your voice. It's like, you are just not going to stand out in our industry. I'm sorry. And I've left that meeting just thinking, wow, that's okay.
How did you feel about hearing that kind of stuff?
I mean, I was in a rental car. I just went to my rental car and just sat there in the parking lot of that record company, and it was like shell shock. And again, talk about every feeling that I've ever had about myself anyways. You're unworthy. You're not good enough.
Right.
You're not good looking. Whatever deficiency you want to put on that list, when a major person who it's their job to be able to oversee and find good things and good character and talent, when they say you're a piece of crap, you should just get used to that. It was like, you know what? You're right. I was actually waiting for that. I knew that was going to be the case today. Fast forward just a little bit, out of the blue, like I had given up this one little record company had called me up. Mind you, this whole time I went back and got my paramedic job back, but they wouldn't put me back on full time. So I had to work the PRN as needed shifts that I had to sit by a pager, and if maybe something would come in. So I was taking the shifts like Sundays that nobody wanted to work, the standby cars, the concerts, the whatever, things that nobody wanted to do. So that's what I was doing. And I did that for a year and a half. During that time, I just kept writing songs. I was like, well, if there's one thing that I know that I can do is I can write songs, and I'm going to talk about everything that's going on. I had written a batch of songs. One of those songs was a song called Speak Life. And I was recording in a studio that was owned by this dude named Toby Mack. And Toby and I connected in that studio. One day he happened to come in there while I was in town, and we met. And that was the guy that I had that weird kind of vision, out of body experience about all those years ago when I was in the 8th grade. And here we are connecting 25 years later. And I didn't tell him about any of that, but Toby hears this song, loves it, has this whole other piece that's just been brewing in him. So he ends up finishing it with me and writing it. And then Toby ended up releasing Speak Life on his own. I was going to do it. I was going to just put it out as Ryan Stevenson. And I actually did share it around to a couple people, and they're like, what? They're just like, nah, I don't hear it. Nah, it's not really. And here's the thing. I can't work a song for you, Ryan, because you've already been on a label and you've been dropped. So you're going to be viewed as damaged goods in our industry. This is you need to know right now, this is going to be the battle for you from here on out.
Wow.
Somebody tried something with you and it did not work. So that you're going to have to fight that fight. Anyhow, we write Speak Life. Toby releases it to the world, and it becomes Speak Life. And then still every record label, they would take a meeting with me now, but they didn't want to sign me as an artist. They're like, well, you can be a songwriter on our staff. We like your songs, but not you. And I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't want to just sit around and write songs. I like communicating these stories. Like, I feel alive it's good for me to be able to do that. Everybody said no. The 11th hour, this little record company, an indie label comes along and they're like, hey, we love you. We'll sign you right now. We love everything about you. And I was going to do it, but I had not heard from Goatee Records. And I always wanted to be at Goatee, which is Toby's label. The same day that I got this little indie record contract offer was the same day that Joey, Toby's cousin who owns Goatee with him, calls me up and I actually texted him. I'm like, do you have a few minutes? Because I hadn't heard from them. And I needed to tell him, I'm not hearing from you, so I'm going to move on. I really want to be at Goatee with you guys, but I have to do something. I can't wait anymore, Joey. And he said, yep, I was going to call you today. And I just knew. I was like, here we go. Now they're calling me to tell me no. Maybe this perfect timing. He says, Ryan, I thought I was going to call you today and have a much different conversation. One that I was not looking forward to having. I thought I was going to have to call you today and tell you that we can't sign you to Goatee, that we're going to have to move on. Thought that's what I was going to say to you today. But about 5 hours ago, Toby called me from his car and said, I believe in Ryan. I know he'll always write songs. I'm banking on him as a songwriter. So whatever you got to do, if we miss him, we're going to miss something special. So whatever we need to do, we need to make it happen. You're the first person we've ever signed ever that has ever been on another label. You're the first. And Toby doesn't do that ever. And it's going to take me a couple weeks to get a deal sent over to you, but just wanted to let you know that's where we're at and essentially welcome to the family. And wow, I was like, thanks, Joey. And I was out mowing my grass when he called me and I went inside. My wife was in our bedroom with our little son. You talk about falling apart and just being overwhelmed with emotion. So like Toby really saved us. He really did in a dark spot in our life. It's miraculous.
What I want to ask you about is, because I know there's so many people who can identify with these parts of your story. There are so many who are anxious to tell us our identity. And it may not line up at all with what is true of us.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that experience alone probably solidified for you shutting down those voices of what's false identity and what's true. I don't know if you can just talk about for those who are in that place.
Absolutely. If I'm being real honest, it wasn't until 2020 when COVID hit us. So the whole time I got signed to Goatee in 2012. So from 2012 to 2020, 8 years, even with, songs like Eye of the Storm, a slew of number ones and having a big Toby Mac single, a number one, and now a platinum song and all these things, accolades that I can file away to reinforce, look, see who I am worthy, I am good, I am talented, I'm all these things still under the seams, fighting with myself in torment every day because the bottom line is I don't know. This whole time, I just don't know that I'm loved. I have this distorted view of Abba, and that is the ground floor. And that's the only thing that I feel like I have left to say is that will never change. Our identity will never change. Sin is not, it's not some act we commit. It's not things that we do. That's a symptom. Sin is our identity. The Greek word for sin, hamartia, without, meros, portion or form. The word sin in the Greek actually means to be without our formlessness. Every dysfunctional behavior that we have is just a bankrupt identity. It's because we don't know who we are. And when we don't know who we are, we begin to behave in all kinds of crazy, destructive ways. And I did that for a long time. And when 2020 hit, COVID hit, that was God's absolute stern wake-up call of, I'm going to take you and I'm going to get you. We're going to the wilderness and I'm going to untether you. I'm going to unbraid you from every single piece of identity and security, things and people and relationships and mechanisms and strategies, everything that you think that you have ever needed to be successful and matter and be important or be worthy of anything. I'm going to rip it all out of your life because I love you. You are going to be face to face with Abba. And from 2020, it has been a journey of the Lord, of God breaking through in my life and just showing every second, showing up saying, you're my son. You're my son. You're my child. And I didn't understand the fullness of this really till I had kids. And it's like on my kids' worst day, I'm fascinated with them. On when they're being filthy, when they're being so destructive, when they're just being horrible human beings, like they're the love of my life. That's who they are, not because of anything they've done, but that's who they are to me. And I'm not a better parent than God. That's what I just want to remind people is like, Romans says there is nothing that can ever separate us from the love of God revealed in Christ Jesus. And Paul doesn't stop there. He just goes on to start listing these things out, like height, depth, angels, demons, principalities, things present, things to come, powers. Nothing in all creation will ever be able to separate us from the love of God. That is the gospel. Read the book of Romans. Read Romans 8. That is the gospel right there, laid out in plain sight. That's just where I've been, learning in my 40s, coming back to just having childlike awe and wonder, being a boy again, being a son, letting God just ravish me with his love and knowing that, man, whatever, it's like when you begin to get rooted and established in your identity as beloved son or daughter of the King, then our external circumstances just don't have the pull on us as they used to, because there's that legalistic voice in there. There's nothing for that message to hook into anymore. That's just where I've been. And it has only begun to happen because I've been seeing the Father as Dad, as Abba. And I understand that can be hard, especially when you have a dysfunctional relationship with our dad here. And I did. For some of us, I heard my friend Paul say, for some of us, it takes some of us a long time to wipe the face of our dads off of the face of God. And that was a big problem for me because I felt like God, my whole life, was ashamed of me and moody and quiet, like a silent treatment type of thing where I'm just mostly disappointed. And when you think that's the way God is, you're never going to run to him. What kind of kid wants to run to a dad who's moody and disappointed? And that is not who Abba is. And I'm in my 40s learning and growing in this as we speak every day, just knowing regardless of what happens in my life, like I honestly don't care anymore because I've never felt this free to just love and just know that the Lord is so involved in the details of our lives that we can really just mimic the divine posture, if you will. And that is sitting down and resting and just letting him move.
One of the things I love about Ryan's story is that it reminds me to keep hanging on to Jesus. What he has to say is far more important than our circumstances. God gets the final word. If Ryan's story resonated with you, check out his book. It's called Eye of the Storm. It dives even deeper into his journey through struggle and loss and ultimately redemption. It is a powerful read, and it's a perfect gift for anybody who's wrestling with their God-given identity or trying to hold on to the dreams that God's placed in their heart. And don't miss his newest record. It's called Valley Lows, Mountain Highs. It's a beautiful collection of songs. You can learn more about Ryan, his music, and upcoming tour dates at ryanstevensonmusic.com. We did this interview somewhere in the basement of Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. This was on an afternoon before Ryan was doing a concert with TobyMac's Hits Deep Tour that evening. I'm always grateful when people take time to do an interview, and even more so on a concert day that is already packed. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing your story with us. And thanks to Josh Lorich for connecting me with Ryan. Big thanks to the amazing team behind this episode, Michael Shermack, Lindsay Caparoon, our producer and network director, Jason Rackow. The Unfolding is a production of Faith Podcasts. You can find more great shows at myfaithpodcast.com. Hey, if you enjoyed this story, take a second to follow, rate, or leave a kind review. It really helps us spread these powerful stories to more people. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week with another page of The Unfolding.